First, I would like to talk about the Hungarian euro, Hungary and the Maastricht criteria. Hungary is a so-called member state with a derogation under the Treaty on the Function of the European Union. And Hungary has never met the criterion to set a certain mechanism which would result in introducing the euro. And maybe, based on the statement of Mihály Varga, the then finance minister, this is intentionally so we can keep our derogation under the treaties. Here you can see some convergence data, and as you can see, most time we were above reference values. Sometimes we managed to go below reference value, just as in 2004, but all these data show that we are above reference values. And in 2022, we started to depart from the Maastricht criteria due to the COVID crisis and then due to the economic consequences of the Russia-Ukrainian war. So what these data show for the scientific literature, for example, Judith Menik-Jónás concluded that in 2002 it was unrealistic to expect accession in 2007. It was rather a daydreaming. And also Péter Mihályi concluded that fulfilling the Maastricht criteria has become more and more at the bottom of the list of priorities of successive governments. Therefore, we started to depart from these reference values. Co-authors Nemény and Oblat concluded that short-term political considerations have successively overridden medium-term stability-oriented macroeconomic policies. And my personal preference for this state is articulated by Ákos Péter Bod, the former governor of the Hungarian Central Bank. He said in an interview in 2007 that the peculiar Hungarian story is that we were closer to meet the Maastricht criteria in 2000 than in 2006, which is, if I may so, a laughingstock. Neszményi and Pócsik concluded in 2021 that we were still not far from reaching compliance with the Maastricht criteria. And my personal conclusion based on this data that before 2014, it was really unrealistic to expect the accession. However, after certain changes, for example, in the monetary policy in 2013, Hungary could have fulfilled the Maastricht criteria with some extra effort exerted. However, after 2020, due to the COVID pandemic, the indicators started to depart from the Maastricht criteria. However, accessing to the Eurozone is not an economic issue alone. It needs political decision. So, as I mentioned, we could have access in my opinion, but other political considerations were more important. The Hungarian Central Bank is of the view that accession to the Eurozone does not result in automatic real convergence. On the other hand, failure is sure if the country introduces the common currency before a given level of real convergence is reached. Therefore, the Hungarian Central Bank elaborated the so-called Maastricht 2.0 criteria, which prescribes that the GDP per capita and wage level should reach at least 90% of the euro area, synchronized business and financial cycles, as well as available effective counter-cyclical political toolkit should be established. The economy should be close to full employment, and also an advanced, stable and competitive financial sector should be realized. In my personal opinion, these criteria are too strict. One may ask if this criteria was set to avoid Eurozone accession forever. Hungarian academics agree in the last 20 or 25 years that the basic thesis is that without economic convergence, serious economic harm could occur. as it was proven, for example, by the Greek crisis. However, a disciplined economic policy and reaching a level of real convergence is important even if the country does not wish to access the Eurozone. And as a conclusion of these authors you see on the slides, a country may be successful with or without Euro as well. The most important thing is the disciplined economic policy in this regard. However, there are other considerations related to the Euro. First of all, it could mean belonging to the core, and it has a prestige value. For example, the Slovakians decided that they want to belong to the core. However, others argue that it does not provide any additional value. Also, some argue that losing monetary sovereignty is a too great price to pay, while others argue that monetary sovereignty is only an illusion for a small and open economy just like Hungary. Here are some detail on the legislative framework on the Hungarian Central Bank. The main regulations are contained by the Fundamental Law of Hungary, and the detailed provisions are settled in a so-called Cardinal Act, or maybe organic law is more familiar for English speakers. And the currently effective Cardinal Act dates back to 2013. The Hungarian Central Bank shall be responsible for monetary policy and also, due to the Fifth Amendment of the Fundamental Law, to the supervision of the financial intermediary system. The main target of the Hungarian Central Bank is price stability, of course. However, second paragraph sets other goals, for example, supporting the government's economic policy, provided that these do not prejudice to its primary objective. Here you can see the main bodies of the Hungarian Central Bank, but I think we should skip this. For a more important question, in my opinion, the Fundamental Law of Hungary is a so-called core constitution. However, unlike the previous constitution, which did not contain regulations on the currency, Article K of the Fundamental Law of Hungary declares that the official currency of Hungary is the forint. Therefore, it grants a constitutional rank to the forint. And some argues, like István Simon, that besides the symbolic meaning, it has a practical importance because the changing of the legal tender of Hungary would require the existence of a proper democratic legitimacy, because the government should initiate the changing of the, or amending the fundamental law. In my personal opinion, this is not a very good solution. A situation may occur in which the country cannot access the Eurozone despite being mature enough in terms of real convergence, and then government has the will to do so, but has only a simple majority. Therefore, I concluded a quick comparative research for the V4 countries and for Germany. And the constitutions of these countries do not nominate the legal tender. It is regulated in their statutes on their central banks instead. However, as an interesting issue, Professor Strikolec at the previous conference mentioned that the Slovakian constitution guarantees the right to pay by cash, which may also raise issues if the European decision makers decide to introduce the digital euro instead of the physical one, which is very far from this point, but maybe this will happen. So it will induce such a constitutional issue, just like the Hungarian legal tender. And lastly, I would like to talk about the monetary aspects of managing crisis. The Eurozone crisis, the COVID-19, and the Russia-Ukrainian war-induced crisis. First of all, it is worth mentioning that the post-crisis monetary policy framework brought two major changes. Financial stability also became a priority for central banks, in addition to price stability. And some unconventional elements were added to the toolkit of the central banks. It was possible because disinflation trends allowed the central banks to focus on other tools without jeopardizing the inflation goal. The Hungarian central bank, just like other central banks of Europe, reduced the base rate from 7% to 0.9% and kept it at that level between 2012 and 2019. It also launched so-called funding for growth scheme in order to help the small and medium-sized enterprises. So the central bank offered the commercial banks a refinancing loan at a zero-level interest rate. It also launched a so-called self-financing program in order to decrease the foreign currency debt share in the public debt, and it was successful if we see at the numbers. And also another threat for the Hungarian economy was the high share of the household loans denominated in foreign currencies. And it was also a success because from 2013 to 2015, it was reduced from 14% to 1%. And as for the opinions of the academics, I just highlighted two opinions here. Csaba Lendner argues that the crisis management was a success story with a view to the results detailed in the previous slides. And other economist, László Csaba, says that it is hard not to see how the European trends are followed by the Hungarian ones. I think that maybe there are some kind of justice in the two opinions. Maybe I lean to the opinion of Csaba Lendner better. I think it was a wise policy which was chosen. György Matolcsi said in 2020 that the Hungarian Central Bank was successful in pursuing a sustainable catching up path, while also strengthened the economy's immune system. And others also argued that the Hungarian Central Bank has a sufficient firepower to deal with the COVID pandemic when it arrived. And as for the crisis induced by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Hungarian Central Bank, just like other central banks, stuck to low interest rates and also upheld its refinancing role. It enhanced the Fund for Growth scheme and also the relatively new bond funding for growth scheme. It enhanced its asset purchase programs and also temporarily suspended penalization for breach of reserve requirements. And in 2021, there was a so-called return to normalcy. It started to increase the base rate, and by 2020, February, when the Russia-Ukrainian war broke out, it reached 3.40%. In August 2021, the Hungarian Central Bank decided to moderate its refinancing role and gradually phased out purchase programs. And as for the war-related problems, I decided to use another background color because this crisis demanded another approach from the central bank. It was needed to return to the good old restrictive monetary policy with high interest rates. I think Hungary set the record with 13% interest rate in the region. It peaked in October 2013. The current is 10%. And also the central bank decided to abandon its refinancing role for a time. And as for summarizing thoughts, I think that the ship has gone for a while. Maybe by 2030, as some government officials mentioned in interviews, and also the governor of the central bank mentioned, we can fulfill the Maastricht criteria. And I also think that granting the constitutional rank to the forint by nominating it as the legal tender of Hungary is praised by some academics. In my opinion, it was not a fortunate decision. And also, as for the crisis management, the Eurozone crisis found Hungary in a vulnerable condition, but once the Hungarian Central Bank set the reduction of the external vulnerability as a strategic goal, it accomplished this goal with a success. It also managed the COVID-19 related economic problems very well, and also the returning to the restrictive monetary policy with high interest rates and abandoning the refinancing role was a wise decision. Thank you very much for your kind attention.